everyone, and welcome to this edition of the OTT.X Wednesday Webinar Series. I'm Eric Hansen from OTT.X, and on behalf of the whole team here, I want to thank you for joining us today. It is a privilege to share with you the experiences, insights, and information from the people that are shaping the OTT streaming industry. Hearing and actually understanding what customers are telling us is crucial for the success of OTT streaming businesses, and while there's no shortage of vehicles for customers to provide input, it can be extremely complex to accurately aggregate, interpret, and ultimately take the most appropriate actions based on the voice of the customer. In this week's webinar, we'll hear about ways that streaming companies can collect, analyze, and respond to customer feedback across various channels and devices, and how machine learning provides the capacity to reimagine consumer engagement through personalization, automated customer support, and superior live in-app experiences. Our presentation today is from CuVO. We're excited to have with us two executives and co-founders from the company. Welcome, Phani Kolaraja, co-founder and CEO, and Mala Ramakrishnan, also co-founder and chief product officer.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate the introductions.
How are you both doing this morning? Or today, depending on where you are.
We're doing well. We're doing well. We just got back from a big show in Amsterdam, IBC, the International Broadcasting Convention. So yeah, all pumped up, ready to go. And it was great experience. Learned a lot, gained a lot, networked a lot.
Yeah, so that's a good place to do it. Fantastic. Well, I'm going to turn it over to y'all if that's all right.
Cool. Absolutely.
All right. We'll see you in a little bit.
All right, thanks, Mala. Eric, thank you for that intro. Welcome, everyone, to this webinar for Customer's Voice, CuVO. The way CuVO's idea was conceived was, how are we measuring our customers' inputs that translate into their engagement on any given streaming media or a media platform in general, or a digital platform that caters to the media space, media and entertainment. What we found out was there is two ways in which customers are being engaged on any platform. One is a covert way of collecting objective analytics in the back end. And the other way is a more passive way of sending out surveys after a transaction or after watching a video or an asset. We wanted to kind of provide a way for the users to be able to engage live on a given platform. And we thought that was a gap. A customer's voice was truly not being heard. Their opinions were not given a chance to be heard and then take actions on based on those. So we came up with the platform CuVO, Customer's Voice. I have here with me today Mala, who is a co-founder. My background, I am a serial entrepreneur, and I have, CuVO is my fifth startup. In the last 25 years of my experience, mostly focused on, building digital platforms and catering to enterprises on the B2B and in some cases B2C. Have played, started as an engineer, got into, client management, account management, and then started building companies. I partnered with Mala here about a year ago on this CuVO platform. Mala?
Thank you, Phani. Hi there. My name is Mala Ramakrishnan. I'm the co-founder here at CuVO. My background is as a software engineer, product manager, and product marketer, spanning a career of about 25 years in Silicon Valley. CuVO is my third startup. I have an extensive background in middleware technologies and consumer tech. Companies such as Meta, Cloudera, Viva, Automation Anywhere, Oracle. Those are the years that I spent in the Valley here. I do hold a master's in computer science from Stanford University. So with that, we'd love to dive in on our efforts here at CuVO. Cool. Phani, tell us about the state of the industry.
Yeah, see, this is a space I'm really excited about. We started this journey in the OTC space, right in the middle of the pandemic, actually, 2019 to 2020. Was a ton of studies going on in how are users or consumers moving more from a regular television to, or even consuming content on other mediums to OTT space. There was a huge explosion we saw during the pandemic on platforms like Netflix and even Prime and other OTT platforms. What a recent study shows is the market size is going to only grow incredibly by 2020 to 138 billion. What is driving this? We have seen one of the big cultural elements that drives within the US is entertainment and sports. Sports also has become a big promoter of OTT platforms. This year, NFL has been featured on YouTube TV. If you look at the YouTube packages that are being offered as a part of this NFL ticket, or what you call a Sunday ticket, if you just get the NFL ticket, it's $3.99. But if you package it with TV, it's $2.99. So why are they doing this, right? I mean, it's weird that they're actually offering more for less. The whole point there is they're trying to drive audience using this as a way to be able to capture them for a longer term. The whole game is to see how they can capture as many audience as possible, consumers as possible, and get them married to their platform. If you take the large three big sports in the entire world, soccer is also being featured various leagues, especially in the European area region on OTT platforms. Cricket, for those of you who do not know, it's a big Commonwealth sport. It's followed by billions in Asia and also some parts of Europe. CuVO platform, which is a major OTT platform for content providers in Asia, they have featured cricket exclusively on FAST, and it's not even subscriber based; it's just FAST channel, and a sport that is followed by billions. So why is this medium being so popular? 5G is driving the whole technology behind content. How we are trying to get content to the edge devices faster, cheaper, and we don't need your regular fiber-based modems or all those anymore. 5G is going to be the next wave, and then obviously technologies on top of 5G, including edge caching, which is going to make content being available for cheaper and faster. And the other thing is globalization of content. Anything that you produce here within US or even in India or even Asia is available worldwide for once the globalization rights and all those copyrights are being addressed, the content is available everywhere and it's faster. The last thing is, with so many providers and platforms fighting for consumers, quality of service and quality of experience, QoE and QoS, are going to be extremely important. You may not have the right content for a given user, but however, what are you doing to keep your consumer on your platform? Once the content is, once they're done with watching whatever show they're watching, how are you keeping them married to your platform? Those are the kind of things that we'll explore here today as we kind of go on. So the challenges with current OTT apps, churn is high. Users have the ability to go pick and choose the platform they want to be in. They're not married to a platform. They're following content or they're following quality. If they don't like what they see, or if they don't have a good, delightful experience on a platform, they have choices today. Now, what do companies do? What do these platforms have to do to be able to, engage the users, drive success for them so they are not going to churn? Collecting feedback, giving consumers a voice. We see that there is outages on any given platform almost every day, right? They could be infrastructure based, they could be content based, but how are you going to help your users understand that they are valued on your platform? Well, you give them a voice, you give them a choice for them to explain their grievances, and you as a platform owner in turn try to engage with them immediately. Take the consumer 360 feedback and build meaningful, actionable items so that you're responding back to them in real time, making sure that they know that their voice is being heard, which will stop them from going to this social medias and throwing out social signals and venting their frustrations. The idea is address their grievances, make sure that their voice is heard, and let them know that their quality of experience is a paramount for you. And ultimately that drives them to staying with your platform and not churning. So I want to give some use cases that we have explored as a part of the early adopter program for our platform CuVO. We did a POC with a leading OTT live TV provider, live linear TV, not VOD. And we released this platform to about 100,000 users. We, in about 5 weeks, got about 20,000 respondents. There was a combination of things: feedbacks, bugs, grievances, suggestions, all those. Once we filtered out noise from signal, we got about 5,000 to 6,000 quality feedback from consumers that gave us direction, that gave us a sense of what the consumers want. More importantly, we were able to engage with them live one-on-one, which kind of increased the customer delight index. We'll talk about what customer delight index is in subsequent slides. And also ultimately, drove the NPS score for this platform. 3 other use cases here. ComviVision is a Nest mesh security camera for your home residential setup. They are getting about 1,300 to 2,000 tickets a day. Now, unless you have an army of CSMs for a smaller company like Kami, there's no way you can address all these issues. What our platform did is we have used our platform is ML driven. So we have used the ML based LLMs to drive clustering. And also we have taken a step further to say, use generative AI on chatbots to address customer grievances even before they open a ticket. Now, once the tickets are opened, we try to cluster these tickets to like tickets, which are based connected to maybe one issue. And once that issue is resolved, all those tickets will be automatically addressed immediately. BPM Music is another digital platform where you have DJs who are creating content and they are sharing it with other peer-to-peer networks, and they're getting feedback on what the music is, how they're being used, what kind of usage that is, and all that. OTT Studio is a fast channel where we are actually driving ad personalization and viewing personalization for them by capturing consumer feedback. So what does this all relate to? Where are we going with this? CuVO's goal, vision, mission is to make customer obsession a reality. That's our goal. We want to give the power back to the consumer and then have them drive what they want to see, what they want to view, and what would delight them on a given platform. That's our obsession. So customer delight index, I mentioned this a couple slides ago. What does it mean? It means a composite metrics that ultimately determines the consumer's experience health, and it leads to the propensity of a consumer churning. You can actually predict, give a score to a consumer saying, okay, Mala here has a customer delight index of 70 out of 100, which means that there's a chance that she may churn. Now you have an opportunity as a platform to go talk to Mala and see what you can do to retain her. It gives you options that the platforms did not have before. How are we driving this how are we measuring this customer delight index? We use 3 basic parameters. The system performance, which is objective on, how is your infrastructure performing? What is your video start, time? What is your buffering rate or a rebuffering rate? What kind of quality of service are you providing your consumers? And that coupled with user engagement. How much is a given user spending time on your platform? How many times is watching a show, or he or she? How often are they, actively engaged with you to provide feedback? And then the customer centricity. Every platform is going to have challenges, issues, right? And customers are going to open tickets. What is your mean time recovery for them? How fast are you responding to their grievances? All this coupled together, gives what you call a customer delight index. The output for that is retention. You want to drive retention of your customers. Customer acquisition is high. Cost of customer acquisition is high. Customer retention is cheap. If you can drive your customer delight index to about 90s or 80s, then your chances of retaining a customer is high, which is a cheaper way to acquire a customer. All this boils down to is it drives the net promoter score on your platform within a matter of weeks.
Wonderful. Thank you, Phani, for that. So we're going to transition a bit into the product itself at this point. So Phani just talked about, the challenge that we're trying to solve, the solution, and the validation in the market, and this new index that we released called the Customer Delight Index. So the question now is, how are we going to deliver on all of this, right? How do we deliver on the promise? So this is the CuVO product suite. It has multiple parts to it, as you can see. The first is listen, and then you understand, and then you act. The CuVO listen part of the suite continuously monitors feedback coming in from various channels. And there are two parts to that. One is to be able to embed the CuVO agent in just about any app, whether it's Amazon on Amazon Fire TV or Roku, Samsung, LG, iOS, Android, name it, we are on it. We support just about any JavaScript. So we're on any browser app. So you can use the CuVO agent as a means by which you can collect live feedback from viewers or listeners. It could be any users who are engaging in an experience. And we can also get feedback from other sources because we want to meet the users where they are, right? So for instance, if they're giving feedback on Amazon reviews or Google reviews or other reputation management tools, we have adapters that are continuously listening and monitoring for that feedback. We also collect from Zendesk, Jira tickets, existing support tickets that you might have, emails or texts. So it depends on how you want to configure CuVO, right? The goal is to be continuously monitoring for feedback from the infrastructure of the user. We also monitor for analytics information. For example, we have partnerships with Broadpeak Analytics, MediaMelon, Conviva, so that we can get real-time infrastructure information that affects the users. So that's the CuVO listen part of the product. And as CuVO is listening, what it's doing is it's creating clusters of issues and correlating your incoming feedback from the different users to one of those clusters of issues, and using generative AI to automatically generate responses so that you can respond at scale. So CuVO understand what it does is it gives you dashboards that helps you dive into the details of what the data has from the CuVO listen. And it'll help you transform customer ops and product experience because now you can make sense of all the data. As Phani was saying, you can filter the signal from the noise. You can also figure out new correlations. We ship with standard correlations, but you can discover new correlations and come up with new ways in which you want to address your customers. The third part of the product is CuVO Act, where we automate responses. So CuVO Act is where you can have chatbots, for instance. It could be as simple as having a chatbot on the app itself that's doing two-way communication. The unique thing about our bot is it's using generative AI, so it's very empathetic and it's contextually relevant because of the rich data that we're able to provide it. And so the support costs are cut by up to 40%. We also have a customer assistant bot. The assistant bot actually supports the customer success manager and trains the customer success manager on empathetic responses. So you'll find a lot of smaller vendors actually just using us for customer support. When you're a team which is not able to hire a big customer support team just yet, CuVO can be your customer support manager, and you could be doing a lot of the automated customer support automations. The second part of it is personalization. So there's a lot of interest in ad and content personalization, especially in fast channels, to be able to see who your viewers are and then to be able to personalize the ads experiences from this perspective of maximizing on the pod fill rate, or how many, or being able to determine how many minutes of watch time does a person prefer when it comes to ads, and then positioning the ads in the right location. And then for content personalization, just at the IBC, they have an accelerator program where we innovated how you would do granular content personalization based upon feedback that the users are providing in real time. So the way in which we get the feedback is just with the CuVO agent itself, and we're just using that for the personalization intent. And then the third is product development itself, where we're driving a prioritized roadmap. And so as your consumers are giving you feedback, we're able to prioritize the feature requests and bug requests so that you can take that into your product roadmap, and then we can give live updates to the viewers as the features get prioritized so that they know that they're being heard. So that's the summary of the product suite. So at the very bottom, you see the customer lifecycle management. Think of that as robotic process automation tools. So those are tools that will automate the human aspect of managing customer support. For instance, it could begin with just responding automatically, but also handling escalations or determining escalations, or giving visibility into how you manage your staff, which customer success manager is performing better than the other. What do you do when a customer success manager goes off on vacation? So that those sorts of life cycle management tools are the ask of larger organizations, and so we're catering that as well. So at a very high level, CuVO's value proposition is to create actionable steps to improve your customer centricity, right? So because we all say customer is king in our organizations, but when you come to the the tactics of how we implement that, it's far from the reality. Often customer success is a siloed organization, siloed part of the organization. It's a function which has people you're hiring in less skilled parts of the world, like the Philippines or India, and you have outdated software, maybe like Zendesk, which is just used to manage the incoming support tickets, and the customer support team is overwhelmed by the volume of tickets, especially in B2C products such as the fast channels and the OTT channels. So customer support is a priority if you want to minimize churn, if you want to get visibility into who your users are so that you can maximize personalization. And so that's kind of where we are, right? So the first is we lower the customer support costs through automation of responses. The second is we improve customer delight because the actionability of the responses is so high. The NPS score is directly affected by it. NPS is the Net Promoter Score. You'll find that within a matter of weeks, the NPS goes up by almost double. You also find that if you do A/B tests with CuVO and without CuVO, you'll find the first 90-day retention is as high as 70% more. And this is natural when people feel heard and they feel that their issues are something that matters to you and that you'll address it. They tend to stay with the product. And then the third part is really interesting, which is you can actually save on product development costs, because if you think of how OTT apps are built, it's really hard to mimic the user environment because users are on all kinds of devices. They're on different versions of the app. They speak different languages. So we provide language localization. We are on just about any kind of device. And so we save on product development costs, that we're able to get live feedback from viewers in the actual environment that they're in. So there isn't a need for you to mimic the consumer environment to a large extent in your product development area. So that kind of brings us to the end of the slides, and we're going to jump into a demo. So we'd like to pause for questions. So Eric, do we have any questions from the audience?
Yeah, I want to encourage our audience to drop some questions into the question kiosk on your Zoom screen. In the meantime, I just want to say that I am really excited about what you are doing here. This is really, really valuable stuff. And, we hear from many of the channels and the distributors that are members of OTT.X that it's difficult to get information about what viewers are watching, how long they're watching for, and just understanding what's working and what's not working for them. And I think that what you're doing here provides a great window, right, into getting some of that data that's actually been so tough for folks to get.
Absolutely, Eric. And you'll see when I show the demo that the product is set up in such a way that the viewers can give live feedback. So they can actually enter information themselves, which gives a lot of contextual information. And so you can glean what's going on by looking at screenshots, screen recordings, voice to text recordings. And so the humans that are watching you using your product can actually speak to you.
Yeah, I like the way you mentioned this, Mala, that you said customer is king. And very often in this industry, we call someone else or something else the monarch, and that would be content.
Right.
And it kind of made me think that, with so much content available, you can't watch all of it. You just can't. It's like almost like content's becoming like bread. There's like a gajillion different kinds of bread, and you like it all. It's all fine, but you just can't eat it all at the same time. You don't really have any allegiance to one kind. It's bread, and so it's something else that's going to attract you and keep you with content or with a platform or a channel. And I think it's the UX has a huge amount to do with it. Are you seeing that to kind of be the case, that the resonance is not necessarily with the show?
Yeah, yeah. Fanny, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, 100%, right? So as you said, the menu is big, right? It's so many choices. That's why, the goal is to provide a UX experience for users that will absolutely delight them. And they will say, okay, once a show is done, they would want to go look for something else on your platform because they love the experience so much. It's just not about the content. It's also about, how you get to that, what kind of experience that they have, what is the quality. All those things matter. Everything else matters, right? You could, put together.
Yeah, absolutely. I wish some of my providers had a customer delight index on. They might be surprised. Maybe they wouldn't be surprised. One more question for you? What are maybe some examples of some of the big ahas that some of your customers might get from getting this data? Things that might surprise them or that they've learned that they're able to implement.
One of the interesting things that came up actually with one of our customers is that a large portion of the tickets, almost like 30 to 40% of the feedback, was about billing and finance issues. We were all like, focusing on content and user experience, and we realized they were just constantly asking, why was I billed twice? Of course, this is a subscription-based business. Or, why was this 10 cents more? Or, it's just a lot of billing questions. And we also found that when people write to you, they write about 2 or 3 issues. And you and I tend to do that when we don't realize it in conversation. So if you examine the feedback that people are providing, we discovered that it's rarely the case that they're saying, I have a billing issue. But they're usually saying, the show is really grainy. I'm not able to find what I need. And I also have a billing issue. And so that really complicates the way you need to respond to humans. And so that's what we're really, really good at. Our machine learning platform is continuously looking for patterns in complex text and trying to see how many different clusters of problems are there and how can we actually address all of them in an empathetic way so that the human feels heard.
That's a great example. I mean, it's not just if you didn't have some way to get some help from a computer, whether that's machine learning or whatever you call it, it's really hard to take those messages, those signals out of hundreds, thousands of customer support tickets that are spread across a team of customer support reps. How are you going to pull all that out and actually know that what you really have is a billing issue with a lot of your customers? That's super interesting.
Yeah, and then you also find that they call multiple channels. So they'll call your call center, they'll also send an email to the CEO, and they'll also be creating a Zendesk ticket. And it'll all be the same person. So there's a huge volume suddenly, except it's all a lot of duplicates. So duplicate elimination is up to 30 to 40% of the work that we'll end up doing. So it's rather interesting. It's a very interesting problem to solve.
Well, you're saving CEOs lots of time in responding to customers too. I'm sure they appreciate that.
And our goal is to make sure users don't churn and they have an incredibly positive experience. And we want to put the user at the center of the conversation rather than the content or something else, because we'll end up getting very distracted as the vendors in what we think would be ideal for the customer rather than just asking them, what would you like?
You're right. Well, that's so cool. I want to give it back to you at this point, and so you can finish up with the demo, and we'll get back on. And hopefully, for those that are watching, please do cook up some questions and drop them into the Q&A bin for us, and we'll see you all in just a little bit.
Great. So here we are. Can you see my screen, Phani?
I can. Yes. Thanks, Mala.
Great.
I can see the screen.
So here's a sample app. It's an OTT app called the Cookie app. As you can see, it's named on the top left here. You can see there's a few videos here. I'm going to click on one. And let's assume that this is a user who's just going to play the trailer at this point. I'm going to mute it just for the purposes of our discussion so you can hear me. I've muted it. And this is CuVO. So layered right on top of it. I triggered it by clicking a button, right? And there's star ratings you can set up. I'm going to type my email address, different categories. I need help. Screen recording, very cool feature where you can actually record the screen so that it's actually recording audio as well as video. And once it's done recording, record the screen. There you go. So you can hear my voice that has been recorded. I click send feedback, and this ticket is now going to have information on my viewer experience. So the way it's set up here that you're looking at is CuVO has been set up to have the default configuration, right? You can actually set it up to look and feel like the native app. Like if you saw it on my TV at home on my Fire Stick, you can't even tell it's CuVO. It looks like the native app. And it's very easy to set up. Like a person who's not very technical can then set this thing up so that it looks and feels like the base product. You can also see there's a lot of flexibility in the look and feel, that you can have drop-down menus, check boxes, star ratings. You can have email addresses optional. Sometimes people choose to set it up so that all you take is a screenshot or a screen recording. And that's basically it. Like right now, I'm just taking a screenshot. You can see it's taken a screenshot. It doesn't ask for any additional information. And that way, it makes it very easy for the user to provide feedback. We found that 1 in 5 users actually use our product to provide feedback. You'll find often the challenge is that in order to provide feedback, you send surveys after the experience. And if that's done, less than 1% of viewers will actually respond to it, versus 1 in 5 providing you feedback only because of the actionability and the ease of use of the CuVO agent. So CuVO can be triggered in multiple ways. It can be triggered by the click of a button like I'm doing. It can also be triggered based on a timer. So if it's been a few minutes and I'm sitting and browsing around, CuVO can come up and say, hey, can I help you? It can be triggered by clicking on a menu. So it can be embedded within a menu. Or it can be that it's just, when you're moving from one screen to another. Or if you have like a hotkey. So let's say you're watching an ad and you're trying to exit out of the ad, CuVO can pop up and ask you, is this too sensitive? Is it, have you already purchased the product, or is it too repetitive? So that ad exit intent provides a way for you to say, what's the personalization that you can actually do for a given user, or for a, for a range of users or a demographic of users. So this is the user experience of the CuVO agent. And then when you come here, this is our actual dashboard. So you can see the dashboard has multiple products that I've configured here. I'm going to pick the CuVO video browser, which is what we've been looking at. And this is a summary dashboard, which is giving you the performance score, the area of good performance, areas that need attention. It's summarizing across feedback, bugs, and feature requests, which are really categories that have been set up. You can change those too. It also gives you information at the user level to see who the top 10 commenters on the different sorts of issues. And then it's a sentiment analysis tool. So it's telling you overall the health of your product. So when you double click and you go into the feedback and bugs, you can see right here, this is the record the screen. That's the ticket that I just filed. You can see the recording has come through fine. And by default, we allow you to send an email, right? And it's a rich text editor, so you can add drop-down links, so you can have documents that you can send as attachments in case you want the user to follow some steps. So that's a very simplistic way in which you can interact with it. There's more to it. So if you click here, you can see all the information related to the user. We can gather almost anything that's on the media player. We gather as little as needed, right? So we give you information on what platform was the user on, what version of the platform, what was your source IP address, what was the host information. And under context details, you can buy plugins. For example, if you had the analytics plugin, it'll give you information on the outage, for instance, if there was an outage or a buffering issue. And I think I might have some tickets here that might show that, and I'm just browsing to see if I can find one of those right here. So let's see, when I click on reply here, It's giving you the generative AI solution has automated a default response saying we have some known system issues. Apologies, please try again in an hour. The next movie is ad free on us. So it's offering a promotion so that you don't leave the product, right? Leave the OTT channel. The reason why it's been able to automatically generate this is that you can see in this graph, there are multiple factors that it's evaluating. And this information actually has come from Broadpeak Analytics. It's an analytics tool that's used to analyze the video performance, which is telling you that there is an issue with the startup rating, which is an issue with the video starting on time. And if you go into information, it's telling you startup rating is based on the startup time. If it takes too long, then it's closer to 0. And then this can also give you information such as if your problem is with your Wi-Fi instead of your infrastructure, right? So let's say Phani's teenager is playing video games at home and therefore his OTT is not performing well. So we can actually tell that saying, hey, the problem is not with our streaming, the problem is with your Wi-Fi. Go and upgrade your Wi-Fi or get your family members off your Wi-Fi so that you can actually watch this show in peace. So that's really powerful because now the user's not going to go to Twitter or Facebook and complain and create a Twitter storm. They can actually take action based upon the relevant feedback. It also empowers the customer success manager who may not know what the issue is if all you got is a screenshot saying the product is too grainy, right? It's able to correlate information. The product also can add other plugins, like I was saying, on reputation management tools. So for instance, it can see patterns then if you integrated it, saying there's a trend that, 10% of viewers on Twitter are complaining that the show is off by a minute. The live shows are off by a minute or something like that, right? Then you can immediately see, okay, this is a trigger for us to go and fix the product so that, fix our infrastructure so that users don't churn. So it avoids a high level of critical issues that organizations might face, especially around outages. And then I'm going to walk you through what it's like to configure the product. So there are 3 sets of users who use our product. One is a user who's giving live feedback, which is typically the viewer. The second, which I'm going to show you, is the customer success manager or the product manager who wants to configure this to look and feel like the native app. So on the right side, you see this is a WYSIWYG editor that's telling you how the agent's going to look and feel if you're going to choose to use our agent. And you can configure, for example, you can say email is optional, or you want 3 categories or only 2 categories. Do you want 5-star ratings? You can also change the way this looks and feels. For example, the widget appearance is where we found our users spend a lot of time making it look and feel like the native app, like changing the colors of the buttons and so on. You'll also find that we can have tracking systems. So you can change the tracking system. For example, bugs can go to Zendesk, or if you can have feature requests, that should go to Jira and so on. So you can change your tracking systems. And then comes the part for the developer. So we have the viewer who's providing feedback. We have the product manager or customer success manager who manages the look and feel of the product. And then this is the part where the developer comes in. All they need to do is take this automatically generated code and copy and paste it into the front end of their app. So this should take about 2 hours worth of work, really, maybe maximum 1 sprint if you want to think about testing and, making sure that nothing gets broken with CuVO integration. But really easy. There's no SDKs, no high code maintenance, very quick and easy to get this thing up and running. And then after you've got up and running, you can still continue to change the look and feel of the product so that it matches exactly your intent. So CuVO is a SaaS product, so it's multi-tenant SaaS, and we host it on our AWS infrastructure. If you want a single tenant, we can do that. But if you want to host it internally for larger organizations, especially, that's an option as well. We have role-based access control. We are very privacy aware. We're working on our SOX compliance. So we're really building for industrial strength, right? Enterprise-ready customers.
So Mala, what is this chatbot I see in the bottom?
Oh, the chatbot. I can walk you through the chatbot right here. So let me show you. So this is our generative AI chatbot. This is layered on top of the Kami, one of our customers who's using us. So this chatbot is a way in which you can communicate. It's really easy to set up You can do things like have an intelligence layer on top of it, so that, for instance, if you want to bypass the conversation with a chatbot and you wanted to say every time you have a finance issue or a billing issue, don't just churn, talk to a customer success manager. You can do escalation such as that. You can set it up so that by default it asks questions first before it responds. So it's very unique because, see, the thing is, very traditional chatbots, the way they're set up is that it's a very structured decision tree structure. For instance, let's say I go to a chatbot and I say, hey, tell me the weather, right? A generic question like that, it would say, well, are you in, which zip code are you in first? Or it will ask, give me more detailed information about what exactly you mean by weather, right? So it's going to ask you a ton of questions, and then it'll map it against the documentation that it's been trained on for a decision tree in order to respond. And that's how typically bots like Zendesk bot is set up. Versus the generative AI bot that we have is much more like a human being, where if the human being knows that you already live in California because of your billing address, and they already know that you have a certain kind of device, then when you ask for the weather, it can make an intelligence response saying, in California, this is the weather. Are you trying to place your camera outdoors? Right? So that kind of contextual response that only a human can do, the chatbot from CuVO can do. And
Right.
that really minimizes the amount of interactions needed in order for you to get to the accurate response.
Yeah, and also it's a preventive measure, right? Some of the common questions like, hey, I can't find content, I can billing questions, all those things. A user necessarily does not have to open a ticket. Those issues can be resolved rapidly and immediately. They don't have to pick up a phone, all those things. And what
Absolutely.
that
Yes.
removes the stress off of the CSMs and on the system.
Yeah, and then the CSMs, there's a CSM version of this bot. A CSM is a customer success manager, where the CSM can be trained on the contextual relevance of these responses. So, because often you hire customer success managers who are very, inexperienced and in areas of the world that are not culturally as similar as to the areas where you serve your actual customers. For instance, you might hire in India or Philippines, and your customers might be in the UK or the US. And so the language and the cultural context with which you communicate is important. And so the bot can train the CSM. It can also be set up so that the tone of voice and the conversational style can be changed. And so it can speak with the empathy and the context that's needed for that particular area of that world. So yeah, so this is some of the cool stuff, right? We have chat bots, we have customer success bots, we have integrations with third-party software so that we can actually get a 360-degree perspective. This might be an interesting one for everyone to view, which is how we actually set up our contextually relevant generative AI solution. So we are feeding in from direct-to-consumer channels, reputation management tools, analytics platforms, ticketing tools, ad servers. So all of the content that comes in, all of the data that comes in is then categorized and set up so that they map to clusters of issues, and they're very easily indexed so that it's a rich set of rich, relevant feedback that you can use in order to have two-way communication with the viewers. And you can have it in the app itself where they are. And that's the whole point of the product. So that kind of brings us to the end of the presentation. Phani and I are happy to chat, hang out longer. You can also send us an email, and we'd be happy to set up time outside this webinar.
Hey, thanks so much. Really full feature set in your product. I wonder where you might be going next with what you're any thoughts about what you or that you could share about what you're thinking about for next steps with CuVO?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of our energies is going into the customer delight index at this point. One of the things we're trying to grapple with is the responsibility of having AIs using displacing maybe the human effort. So being responsible about the whole thing, and then ethically sourcing the data, making sure there's not bias in the data, so that people are treated fairly when or equitably when the responses are sent live, especially if you're going to send it at scale. Right now, it's set up so that the investment comes from the end user, like the vendor that we sell, our customer that we sell to, right? Where they're going to determine what's right and wrong, but we're trying to take on more of that responsibility. And so that's the investment that's being made. So the customer delight index, for instance, we're trying to think of how would we set it up so that there is a sense of fairness in the analysis when you're looking at scale.
Ah, I see. Yeah, so it's not just about numbers. Well, we've got 1,000, requests or complaints or something about the video quality. So that must be the most important thing. Well, maybe those just happen to be the loudest people, and there's 2,000 requests for something that no one's saying anything about because of maybe their demo or something.
Yeah, and also are the preferences very specific to a certain demographic, and is that overruling everyone else's voice, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's cool that you're thinking about that. A very at an uber level, empathetic artificial intelligence. I think very often I feel like, and many people might agree that our intelligence isn't very empathetic sometimes. So maybe our artificial intelligence can help us out a little bit there as well. So you showed us some I think telemetry about the startup time and things like that for a video. Is that something that you can monitor while
Yes.
content is being viewed across the viewership, or is it only available when somebody has an issue?
No, that can be monitored almost close to real time when across the system. And those technologies exist today. I think some of the companies that Mala mentioned, Broadpeak, Conviva, Media Melon, they already have this service in place. And even Adobe Analytics, to some extent, also can capture user actions. But all these metrics that lead to the QoE from an objective point of view from the video, they are all available and can be captured almost close to real time, system wide.
Interesting. So let's say I've got a channel and it's on some platform. It might be on Amazon, or it could be on Pluto, whatever my channel's on. And are you able to actually monitor what viewers are doing, like if they're watching and maybe they're churning out or they're stopping watching at a certain point, and I can see consistently everybody's leaving it during this one scene. Wow,
100%. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's one of the use cases that we are working with a fast platform, especially when someone's watching a movie or a show, and if they do exit without completely watching the show or the movie, we interject to capture their feedback. Is, did you not like the video, the ads, or did you not like the movie? Right? What can we do better? And that gives us a perspective where we can build personalization for them. All this is driving towards this hyper personalization. Is how can we provide them a better service when they come back in the next time, right? So all of these are available and can be done through CuVO. Yes.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Well, terrific. Great work on this. I'm really excited to see what you're doing, and looking forward to sharing this with our membership. Well, love to have you back on sometime and hear more about what you're doing and get an update on some of the great work that's going on at CuVO.
Thanks, Eric. Really appreciate the time and the platform, and thank you everyone for participating and listening to us for an hour.
Yeah,
Hey,
thank you
thanks.
so much.
Thanks everybody for being here today. And I really appreciate both Phani and Mala for sharing the insights and learnings about customer engagement and the great work they're doing at CuVO. Fascinating stuff. And thanks to all of you, our dear audience, for attending and for your continued support of OTT.X. As always, we recorded the session and it'll be available on the OTT.X website at OTT.X.org. We've got a burgeoning library of videos and presentations out there for our online and in-person events over the last few years. So do check that out. I also want to remind everybody that the OTT.X Impact Awards is accepting submissions for content and technology that's inspiring positive action and promoting acceptance and equality for all people. Submissions close at the end of October, which is quickly approaching. So if you've got a technology or some content that qualifies, we'd love to hear about it. Go ahead and drop it into to our submissions page. The link to the Impact Awards is in the chat now, or will be soon. I also want to mention that we have a panoply, there we go, of events over the coming months for OTT.X members, including next week's Salon in New York, a Los Angeles industry meetup, our online live conference, and a lot more. You can find out about upcoming events and everything OTT.X on our website at OTTX.org. We're doing a lot, so I hope you come back often and tell your friends. We'd love to meet more folks in the industry. So that concludes today's webinar. Thanks again for joining us and for being a part of the OTT.X community. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye.